Hi and welcome back to Bedecked. I am the author-stylist Rebecca N. Bryan, but you can call me Beck. Today I'm going to do an informational episode. It's going to be kind of like almost a book report format. I am going to give you my takeaways on the book, The Psychology of Fashion by Carolyn Mayer. I used this book as one of my references when I was writing my own book on how to dress to match your brand, to enhance your own brand for authors. When I set out to create this business, I wanted to prove to maybe people who didn't believe it that clothes, what you put on, matters. That what you wear does have an effect on both how you feel and how people perceive you. So I wanted to back that up with a little bit of science. This book deals a lot with how the fashion industry influences both people in the industry and the consumers of the industry, both in a positive and a negative way. This book does highlight a lot of the negative aspects of fashion. For instance, as you I'm sure already know, ads and the fashion industry, runway shows, things like that, the fact that models are so skinny does have a lot of times a negative impact on one's body image because they are presenting this ideal and that a lot of us can maybe never achieve, or not in a healthy way at least, or definitely not in an immediate way. So how do we combat fashion giving people, the fashion industry giving people a poor body image? There are many brands that are working on that right now. You see more and more inclusivity and representation in ads these days. You see women and people of all different shapes and sizes now. I've seen ads with women with prosthetics, with a prosthetic leg, women in people in wheelchairs. I think Victoria's Secret just announced their first model with Down syndrome. So representation is important. And the fact that we are now elevating different kinds of people as beautiful and as worthy of being models is important, and it's good for everyone. It just is. Social media is also a big aspect of that too. You see someone, an influencer who you really admire, and you're like, they look so perfect, they look so together, they look so skinny, but you got to keep in mind, we all have to keep in mind that social media we're only seeing what those people present. There are influencers that I follow now that show behind the scenes. It's like, yes, I am sucking in this picture, but like a second ago, my gut was hanging out, stuff like that. Like moms, for example, who show off their stretch marks or their cellulite. Like, it's normal. A lot of us have it. It's okay. So following people, if you're on social media, that present a realistic expectation of beauty will then in turn make you realize that you're not the only one out there. So we've kind of covered with the fashion industry, the pitfalls of that and of social media. What I want to focus on is how it can help. What you wear can help you fit in with a certain group you want to fit in with, or it can help you stand out. So if it can be damaging, why follow fashion in the first place? Wanted to read this excerpt. Many reasons have been given for following fashion, including for enhancement of one's best feature, for modesty, and for status and in-group belonging, and out-group differentiation, which is what I mentioned before. In this sense, clothing is a way of satisfying our needs, and when these are met, we can use it to articulate our identity. So, a lot of us, when we're getting dressed, we want to fit in with everyone around us. We want to kind of match the level of dress of the people around us, but we also want to be our own person. And that is kind of that's always been kind of a weird dichotomy for me personally. It's like, I see clothes, especially in influencers and bloggers and stuff like that. It's like, I like that, but I always want to be a little different. Like I mean, blazers are very classic, cutouts are very classic, but like, I'm gonna wear a lemon lime colored blazer. That's how I choose to stand out. When we're talking about fitting in or standing out, I'm sure everyone watching this has a preference one way or another, but here's an argument for standing out a little bit. Studies examine the conformity of judgments and opinions in group demonstrate how people conform because it's easier to do so than face the consequences of going against the majority. So like sometimes we don't want the attention. Sometimes we don't want the potential judgment. Conformity can also manifest with regard to clothing, resulting in the benefits of better group acceptance and cohesiveness. So, blending is comfortable. You can relate to people who are like you. However, other studies have found more positive reactions to people who broke established norms slightly. I mean, if you see something different or unique that you like, you're going to compliment that person, right? Or you feel good when you get complimented for something like that. For example, a man wearing a red bow tie to a black tie event was viewed as having a higher status and competence than others. Valuing uniqueness also increased ratings of the status and competence of a professor who wore red Converse sneakers while giving a lecture. So there you go. Dress has been found to influence perception of intelligence and academic potential for both students and teachers. And probably readers too. So, I mean, there's a reason to kind of stand out slightly. There was a study done on women, on breast cancer survivors, a survey where they were interviewed as to how they use clothing since their mastectomies. It's used to feel better about themselves. It's used to relate to other women, make new friendships, and of course, clothing is used as to conceal or reveal different parts of your body. Finally, the women use clothing as a way of exploring the self. They played with clothing and tried on a new self, which could be really gratifying and rewarding and helpful when they're trying to figure out and navigating their new bodies. So, in a way, clothing really helped them. There's one study where people are asked to perform a task wearing a white coat, probably similar to this one, but white. And in one instance, they were told it was a doctor's lab coat. In another instance, they were told it's a painter's coat. And in another instance, they weren't wearing the coat at all. This study found that the people performed higher when they were wearing the doctor's coat. Obviously, color also has a big impact of how other people see you. So red and black are considered to make the wearer more attractive. Like red is a sexy color, black, slimming, elegant, stuff like that. So those are two ways to influence how someone views you. One thing I found interesting that was mentioned in the book was that clothing worn by different social strata is never the same because the upper classes abandon the fashion as soon as it's adopted by the lower classes. For instance, I was watching And Just Like That, the Sex and the City remake recently, and I noticed how the women on the show never really wore trendy things like the things you find in trends, the things that are considered fashionable in magazines, like here's the top trends for fall. They never wore stuff like that, but they always were fashionable. And of course, the women in these shows are very wealthy. So, and these established, women look the way they do, look elegant, regardless of what they're wearing, regardless of the trends, because they themselves have embodied that elegance, and whatever they put on is going to look stylish on them because they have internalized that. They have internalized their style and they know how to present it to the world. And they have a lot of money. That doesn't hurt either. You can follow trends if that is part of your identity and who you like to be. I mean, I follow trends to some degree. I find it fun trying the trendy stuff each season, but in the long term, it'll benefit you if you can kind of hone your own style. Like, look for things that you really love, that really speak to you, and if it suits you, I mean, you can work it in with trends. You can work it in with the latest cut of jean or whatever. If it's some sort of top, or if it's a dress, you can belt it or not belt it, whatever, depending on what is in style. But it's going to be faithful to you, and it's going to show who you are. And if you feel good in it, you know, you're going to exude confidence, and people around you will notice. That was just a little taste of some of the takeaways I had from the psychology of fashion. I hope I gave you a little bit of a sense on the importance of what you wear and whether you use it to fit in or stand out, or a combination of both, and how colors affect your mood, and how what you wear can affect how you feel. And I hope you go out and find maybe an author or an influencer or a company with people who look like you today. Follow those people. There's aspirational ones too, but work in a couple of people who are like you too, because you are not alone, and you can use your clothes to enhance your own personality, your own mood, because a lot of times mood is more important in picking out clothes than your personality or who you are. You can use what you put on your body to enhance those things, to bring other people in, which is what we want to do. So, thanks for joining me today on Bedecked. I hope you learned something. Hope I wasn't too ridiculously stumbling. But join me next time.